Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. If you apologies for a little bit of the delay on the intro there, as always. No, Rob, I was not sorting out my hair. I was too busy laughing at Barry doing whatever he was deciding to do along the bottom that I could see him doing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Jess just probably insulted me there, but she's muted, so it's fine. So nobody got to hear what she said then, so that was fine. What's going on here? We're not even a minute in yet.
Is tonight's show sponsored by Brill Cream?
This is terrible.
More to the point, is there any truth in the rumour that your hair is already in Paris?
Do you know what? Obviously, Jess, you remember this from yesterday. Did you see the people behind us went back an extra row when we got there? And I was wondering, can they not see over me hair or something? Because obviously these guys have been saying that for ages. I thought
there's just too much height up there. Even with the
step. Question: if Connor stood next to the Eiffel Tower, what would be bigger?
I know. Apologies about that. We were having a little chat, and then. I was too busy laughing at Barry, so I didn't click the intro properly. But there we are. Anyway, I tried to, Jennifer. It's getting really long now, so I need to get it cut at some point in the next week because it's getting too hard to maintain. Anyway. Right, let's get into the game. Obviously, you're all here to talk about Leicester, the one each draw yesterday, as I put in the title, 2 more points dropped. That's 3 draws on the bounce. Obviously, it's not been an easy run, to be fair. We've had a pretty tough start to the season in terms of fixtures. So we'll get into all of that, get your comments in, your thoughts, everything down. We will be previewing PSG as well towards the end. It's obviously that little game, the second leg of PSG to talk about as well. So we will get into that. Firstly, Jess, I'll come over to yourself then. Just your, I guess, what should I go for first? I've got so many questions to ask. Just your initial emotion then. Obviously,
my initial
24 hours on. Are you deflated? Are you calmed down a bit now? What's your kind of thoughts after yesterday?
Well, I mean, Connor, you saw me at the end of the game, so you can remember what I was like.
Just about. You stormed out.
I have calmed down quite a bit. But yeah, just sort of disappointed, I think, to be honest. I do think it was a case of points dropped. Whilst Leicester have improved a lot going into this season, so have we. So for me, it was just a bit of a lackluster performance. I think that was probably the worst part, that we didn't really deserve anything out of it, to be honest. I think the scoreline was pretty fair. So yeah, just a bit kind of deflated and disappointed still, I think.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. You said I saw you at the end of the game. It was like 10 seconds, yeah, I'm going, guys, see you.
Oh, yeah, to be fair, I did.
Gone?
Yeah, I'd left the dog on his own, so it was like stay and be sad or go home and force my dog to give me love and cheer me up. So to be fair, I did go home and I was like, dog, you need to be my therapy animal right now.
Oh, that's fair enough. And Marc, over to yourself, and what's your emotions over 24 hours on?
It's a game, I think, it was heavily biased in United's favour. I think we dominated the game from start to finish. I think, on reflection, too many players didn't play well enough. It's as simple as that. We pressed and pressed and pressed, and for some reason we couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. I was a bit upset yesterday. I'm less upset today. But yeah, it's a game of frustration yesterday, I think. I think if someone's put it in the comments, that's our game from Everton from last season. Dominate a game and just can't score. And that's the way I see it as.
We're certainly going to dive into all those things as well. Obviously, Everton is a pretty good reflection, obviously, to go back to that draw at home last season, which was horrible as well. Barry, for yourself, what's your kind of thoughts over 24 hours on?
My thoughts are we are still unbeaten. So, I feel like there's a lot of downcasting already, but we're unbeaten. Nobody's beaten us yet. We have not lost a game. So that is definitely a positive that perhaps we should take from the game. Is it a bit depressing? Of course it is. But let's not forget that when we played Leicester last year, we only just about beat them 1-0 as well. So, Leicester are a tricky team for us. They're a bit like our Durham of the WSL. We seem to have tricky games against them. We don't really seem to batter them quite that much. It's not ideal, but we drew 2 games last year. we've drawn 2 games this year, so we'll just have to take that one on the chin and try our level best not to draw anymore.
Indeed, that is for sure. Obviously, there's a comment here. I will just quickly bring it up. Talking about, obviously, Carolyn was injured yesterday. We're going to get to Gabby George's injury as well. But obviously, Carolyn's didn't look good either. So that probably rules out a move in January if that is what we think it looks like. So maybe there's no bid for us in January if that is the injury that we fear on her. So hopefully she recovers well as Gabby George, which we'll get to in a second. Dave, you've gone straight into my second question, actually. Jess, the line that came out, and there was some rotation there. We saw Nikita Parrish come in. Mallard started. Miyazawa, Lad came back in. There's obviously a few players that came in to rotate. What was your kind of thoughts when you saw that line? Were you pretty happy with it? Obviously, noticeable omissions. Obviously, Jace wasn't in the squad at all. Toon was on the bench. Galton was on the bench. Were you pretty happy with that one with PSG in mind on Wednesday?
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, I was pretty happy with the lineup from the start. I mean, I didn't see it until I was basically about to walk into the stadium, but I was pretty happy with it. I'd say I wasn't as happy with kind of the positional decisions, let's say. I think the personnel on the pitch was fine, happy with that, but it was where they were playing. I was somewhat confused by that. Having like Nikita Parrish as number 9, but Mallard out wide, I don't think that's playing to either of their kind of best strengths. What we saw from Keats last season was that she would basically just run around chasing players down, pressing the ball, attacking from the front, just completely wear a team down, and then would kind of bring Garcia on. And that's kind of one of her strong points, as well as, running at players and getting good balls in. Her best play comes from, I think, playing out wide and being able to run at the other team. In that kind of number 9 position, especially when you're sort of on your own, it's just not really what her strengths are, I don't think. So I would have liked to have seen Melvie in there instead, I think. That one seemed like a bit of a weird decision for me. But in terms of the midfield, I was happy to see a bit of a change up in that, to be honest. Again, I think at some point I would like to see less of a kind of defensive setup in midfield, rather than having sort of 2 more defensive players. If we can maybe push one forward a little bit. But yeah, mostly happy.
You've raised quite a lot of questions that I do want to get to. Obviously, talking about Mallard on the left and Paris down the middle as well. It still doesn't make sense to me, because especially when you got Garcia and that there. But Marc, obviously for yourself, it's something. What we spoke about this on this channel on the preview, that we thought Paris might come in. Obviously, she did. Were you happy with that lineup when you saw it come out? Because it's what people have been asking for. There was a few changes in there and players that people have been asking to play. We did see them. What's your kind of thoughts on that lineup when it came out?
Yeah, the lineup was probably what I expected. I think, like Jess said, Mallard off the left, Keats through the middle was a bit weird. But looking back at and speaking to certain people, they said that Mallard plays off the left when she came in for Leon. So that's a position she looked like she knew how to play. I think the only other change I would have made would have been in midfield. I probably wouldn't have started Hayley Ladd. I would have probably started Lisa, or maybe even Irene if she had minutes in her. But other than that, the starting 11 was really what I expected. I wasn't expecting him to make the wholesale changes that everyone was saying he would, but the starting lineup was still a strong 11.
I would argue as well, maybe 2 players that go in, Jason Galton for me, that's probably our best 11 on paper.
Yeah,
so
I think
I was pretty happy with it, to be fair.
Yeah, I think the only slight tinkering I would have done, I don't understand it, and hopefully we'll get into it, is why Zelly was playing as the holder and Hayley Ladd was bobbing forward all the time. I just didn't see the need for it.
We will get into that, because there was obviously talking about Mallard as well. It's another position. I know she's played off the left, but for me, she plays down the middle. But we will get into positional things like that in just a second. But Barry, your thoughts on the 11? I said it wasn't wholesale changes. There was just a few in there. And to be fair, these are quality players we're bringing in. It's not like we're bringing in some of the reserves and some youth players. These are experienced players we're bringing in. Were you pretty happy with that, with the changes? What were your thoughts on that lineup when it came out?
I didn't have any major dramas with it. Looking at the formation, how it was, I was a bit like Marc in that respect, a bit confused as to what Hayley Ladd's doing as the more forward of the 2. Then having said that, it's not that confusing when you consider that Katie is as good as she is in terms of stopping opposition attacks and doing the things that she does when she's at the back. So it wasn't an entirely unexpected thing. I was very surprised to see Nikita Paris as the person in the middle. I would have expected to have seen Mallard potentially taking that role. I was very surprised about the omission of Jays. I don't know why it was that Jays wasn't playing, whether there was an injury or if it was just a rotational thing, but for her to not even be on the bench seemed a little bit odd. So again, we're in that sort of mindset as to why has that happened. Guerrero, I know they're saying Guerrero sounds very Vilda Borisa to me at the moment. You know, why isn't Guerrero playing? Oh, she's got to learn more about the game. For Borisa, it was always be a bit stronger, you know, be a bit better. Now for Guerrero, she's got to learn the defensive side of the game, or that sort of thing seems to be what he's coming out with, which I just find interesting. You know, you buy players, you'd expect them, especially when they won a World Cup, you'd expect them to be ready. I wouldn't be expecting her to have to go through too many hoops on that one. So I do find it interesting that there's a couple of players that haven't played. But with regards to the rest of it, it was a good enough side. Lucia Garcia is a great player. You'd expect her to do well on the right-hand side. It was nice to see Miyazawa play. So that was a good thing for us as well. Possibly not quite in the place you would have expected her to be ordinarily, but yeah, I thought all told it was a pretty good team, which was disrupted immediately, obviously, with the injury to Gabby George, which then required a little bit of a change, about not a massive one, but it still required a change from what they were expecting to do. So any injury will always have a impact on the team and on what you're doing, because somebody's had to come in who wasn't necessarily expecting to play. So yeah, I think we've got all of those. I'm hoping that not you, this one is they're talking about someone other than me. I'm not trying to waffle, so I think that was someone else you're referring to. If not, I'll stop waffling and shut up. Yeah, I thought it was all right.
Yeah, I think that's about Mark, not Mark Henry, Mark Skinner, because we did cover this on the preview because obviously it came out on that day, and I agree with you about it. It's very Vilda-esque in what he said about Guerrero, which it's a bit strange, but we shall see. No, maybe it is you, Mark. Maybe didn't specify which one, so maybe it's you, but who knows? Yes, so obviously on Jay, she mentioned obviously there, Emma Sanders came out and said that it was just a resting thing. There was no injury related to it. Mark did say after the PSG game that she had a slight knock, so obviously rested for this one in anticipation. I imagine she's going to start on Wednesday. But
what you're getting at, Connor, is you get a bit of rotation to try and keep the team fresh.
Seems that way, but I understand it, but I think not having her in the squad at all, I think is a big risk. I think have her on the bench, start her on the bench, and aim maybe to bring her on 10, 15 minutes. But I think not having her in the squad at all is a.
But everybody sits there and says, don't they? Because this is when you start talking about the rotation. Everyone sits there and says, okay, you've got to rotate the players, got to trust the players. It's exactly what he's done. And it's interesting. So I'm watching some of the comments coming already. I wasn't surprised to see my mate Love getting in there. Oh, yeah, Skinner's absolutely poor. He's terrible. And this is what I love. The guy can't win. If he rotates, it's never the players. It's always Marc Skinner's an awful manager. And if he doesn't rotate, then Marc Skinner just won't change his ways, even though they're doing well. It's just, honestly, it's soul destroying sometimes being a Manchester United fan when you have to share the space with people who just don't. I'd rather they just came out and said, I just don't like Marc Skinner, rather than sitting there and constantly trying to justify it with some sort of footballing reason, because frankly, it's pathetic.
Rotation is certainly the topic of conversation. I don't think I've ever been on an AFU show where we've not spoken about rotation, but there we are. Obviously, you mentioned the injury. We'll obviously could talk about that because it's not a nice thing to talk about. Obviously, Gabby George, the player that's probably started the season, one of the strongest out of everybody in the squad, to be honest. I think she's been very good since she's come in. Jess, obviously, we were there. We saw and heard it, which was bloody horrible, by the way. Obviously, seeing her go down in that way, there's no update as to officially what that injury is, but obviously there's a lot of speculation as to how bad it is. But yeah, just your thoughts on, I guess, the impact that could have, and how, I guess, what's the word, upsetting that was to the side, and how much that kind of, I guess, displaced the system that we put out at the start of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge, not only for Gabby herself, but just in that game, getting an injury that I think we obviously don't know exactly what it is, but I imagine that 90% of people have already kind of guessed what it's going to be. And based on kind of what we saw and what we heard, it doesn't sound or look good. And especially with kind of the media attention around injuries like this at the minute, or what we're assuming it's going to be, I think it must kind of affect the players a little bit. I mean, I'm not even playing anymore, and it still affects me just thinking about how many people are kind of suffering with knee injuries and things like that at the minute. So I can fully understand that it might have had a slight knock-on effect. Like you said, Connor, she started the season really, really well. So if it is going to kind of be a nasty injury that's going to have her out for a while, then it's a huge shame, mostly for her because, you know, she really, really, really has started the season well and been one of our kind of best players. In terms of moving forward, potentially, I'm guessing we'd be looking at Jade to come in and cover that position. My only concern is that she doesn't seem to be, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, the strongest in terms of staying fit and healthy. I myself am a very injury prone player, so I know how frustrating that is as well. So yeah, that's my only concern with her. But in terms of her quality, absolutely no issue at all. I think she's a fantastic player, and I think she can just slot right into that position. So that's not so much of a problem. My only slight concern is their kind of injury record.
I was going to say, if it is, obviously people are saying in the chat, so I will say, if it is her ACL, she's done that before. So this will be a second. I don't know whether, I can't remember whether it was on her right knee or not last time.
It's like saying Voldemort. I didn't want to speak into existence. If I just don't actually specifically say what injury everyone thinks it's going to be, it won't happen.
Yes, it's so obviously if it is that, that's a worry to me. That it's the same with Mannion, obviously doing the same injury twice. It's a bit of a concern. But Marc, obviously for yourself, you're also obviously there. That you could. It's one of those where you see the player go. Everyone knew straight away. I think it was Hannah Kane on that side, or I can't remember the Leicester player that was on that side. Just stopped instantly. Everyone just stopped around her. Like I think players know straight away, and obviously the collective feel around the ground as well. But yeah, just her loss and what that meant, I guess, in context of the game and how that kind of upset us a little bit.
Look, she started off really well for us. She's come back to her home club. She's a Manchester girl. Her whole family are Reds. And she wanted to play for United, and she started the season off as one of our best players. You know, obviously, everyone talks about Jace and all the others, but Gabby's been solid, and she's been up and down the left-hand side. And you know what? I was thinking this is going to be a brilliant season with us. You know, we're going to be strong defensively. And then you see what happened yesterday, and it was a freak accident that happened. And when it happened, people out there saw it, we heard it, and we saw the players literally all go around her. And at that point, we all knew what we thought it was. And then, she walked off, and everyone was thinking, well, maybe it's not what it is or could be. But then everyone's reminded me that Leah Williamson walked off against Arsenal when they played at LSV last season. So it's a shame. I hope it's not what everyone thinks it is. I really don't. But I think when you look back at it, it is what everyone says it is. And it's a huge loss.
It certainly will be. Vic has just confirmed it was a left knee last time. I'm pretty sure. I can't remember. I think it was her right she was holding this time around. I think. I'm trying to remember now from the angle that we were looking at her. I can't remember. But either way, it's just, I hate it. But yeah. And as you said, she's just got her dream move to United. Started really well. There wasn't a few fans that were sceptical about it, and it's just really poor. There's never a good time to have an injury like that, but it's just really, really poor. On that one. Obviously, there's some talk in the chat about it. The player of the match poll is in the chat. It's going to be up for a shorter time this time, obviously, because we want to talk about PSG as well. The 4 you can vote for this time. We struggled on this one for a number of reasons, purely because there wasn't anyone that really stood out on this one. So the Tissier, Zellum, Riviere, and Paris are the 4 names we've gone for. If you disagree, that's totally fine. You can disagree. When we come back to it at the end, just put in who you would prefer over one of those 4. But looking at the poll at the moment, Le Tissier is way out in front. So I think we've got we might have a winner already on that one. But don't let me sway your vote. Vote for whoever you want for on that one. But Barry, for yourself, obviously over to talking about talking about Gabby George and the impact that had on the team and those kind of, that period of time in the game after that as well.
Any injuries, I said in my last little chat, any injury causes a problem for the team. You don't like seeing your teammates taken off the pitch. It's even worse when you're not sure what it is, but when it looks bad. Clearly it did look bad. And as a result, that doesn't help. It can be just about anything. We've had a player, Stevenage, who swore blind that it looked like she was going to do her ACL. It just turned out to be a torn meniscus. So, sometimes it can look like one and feel like one. It doesn't necessarily mean it is. If it is, then obviously that's a nightmare. And I think the big problem for us is that our defence doesn't seem as strong as it did last year. Obviously, the 2 bits that have stayed the same is Le Tissier and Turner in the middle. The fullbacks have been chopping and changing and switching and moving all the way through. And that cause we don't have Gabby anymore, then you would imagine that Hannah Blundell would slip back into the left-back slot, which is where she is more comfortable, I think. And we would then have probably Jade at right-back. The problem that leaves you with, as you just said, is that, as Jess just said rather, is that if Jade picks up a knock, who goes then? It's going to have to be someone like May Le Tissier moving out to the right-hand side, at which point we then ask the question, who steps in if May Le Tissier moves out of the centre-back spot? And I think really what it's done for us is it's put us in a position where we'd said before we hadn't necessarily replaced Honor. We had, in terms of having Jade in. What we don't have is strength in depth when it comes to our defence at the moment. So for me, that is truthfully a massive worry, because we are potentially 1 injury away in that defence from having to put out a side that doesn't feel like an upgrade in terms of the defence that we had previously. And you're not going to get an upgrade on Honor in that respect. We were at least expecting a decent right back. We've got one in Jade Riviere, but do we have someone who is going to step into that position? I don't know, is the honest answer. So, yeah, a bit of a worry.
RC said it in the comments, and I was just going to say exactly the same. If we do get another injury at right back, Hayley Ladd can fill into that position. She's played there for us before. She plays in defence for Wales. I would be quite happy with her to play there if the injury is as bad as everyone says it is, and if Jade also gets another injury.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Are you saying Hayley at right back or Hayley at centre half there?
Hayley at right back.
Really?
Yeah.
See,
She's played there for us before.
I'd put Le Tissier out there and then put Ladd back in.
So as a footballer, you never break up a centre-back partnership, ever, if you don't have to. If Maya and Millie are fit, you play them in their best positions, which is centre-backs. And if you remember also, Katie Zellum played there for us against West Ham a couple of seasons ago.
See, I thought they were at centre-back.
That's the way around I'd do it.
And Hayley went in. But
no, Hayley played centre-back, right-back for us against City in the Etihad in 2019.
2019. I'm thinking of the West Ham match for Katie Zellum. And then Hayley dropped in the week before, didn't she?
Yeah, but Katie Zellum played it right back against West Ham. You're absolutely correct, Barry.
Indeed. We've got options there, as Swati said there. Galton has played left back as well if things get really bad.
Yeah.
We can
I was going to say, let's just throw Galton back there again.
Yeah. I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. And there was a comment a bit further on that was a very good point, actually. When Kira Walsh went down at the World Cup, everyone assumed ACL, and obviously it wasn't. She was back 2 games later, and that's in a World Cup as well. So,
I think this is the point, Tony. All in all, is that we're sitting here talking about taking players out of their natural positions to places to cover, and that's not a good situation to ever be in. So,
it certainly isn't. We don't want to be mixing and matching on that one, that's for sure. A player who is on the player of the match poll, and while we're talking about fullbacks, obviously Jade Riviere came in for Gabby George and then went off again in the second half. She went down a few times, and then I think the best thing to do was just take her off because I don't think she was fully prepared for this game anyway. But Jess, what do you make of her performance? Obviously, she's on the player of the match, so we clearly thought she did all right or did pretty well. But what do you make of her? I can't remember exactly how long she was on for. It was about 65, 70 minutes or so.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, she was on for a decent portion of the game, really. I know it sometimes looks bad if a player was subbed on and brought up, but because she came on so early, it didn't really seem like that. And obviously, she kept kind of going down. I did keep saying, actually, while I was stood there, that Skinner can call on me. I can actually play right back. And I love a tackle, so don't worry, there won't be any limp legs. I will be flying in. But anyway, Jade, the actual defender. I thought she had a really good game, to be honest. I thought she was pretty solid. She made some important tackles. I'm pretty sure towards the end she put in quite a big tackle. Kind of saved us a little bit there. But overall, for kind of a player just coming into the team, I thought she slotted in nicely, especially kind of coming on in that sort of situation where there's no way she would have actually been prepared or ready at that moment to come on like 7 minutes in. So I thought she filled in nicely. Like I kind of mentioned before, my only concern with it is sort of injuries. Has she actually got a knock at the minute that she's sort of dealing with? I know she had ankle injuries before, I think. Was it last season, ankle? I've sort of lost track a little bit, to be honest.
I think Jade's had every type of injury, to be honest. I agree with what John was just saying. I think she's a little bit lacking match fitness. Skinner did say something about her in a post-match that she was feeling unwell throughout the week anyway, and only had one session before the game. So I don't think she was fully ready for that game.
There's a little bit of in at the deep end, I think, there. But that's another reason why I just think she did so well, basically, just from complete lack of preparation.
Oh, yes, fair point. As Sporty said, I thought Jade did pretty well for a player who wasn't prepped and had to play literally in the first 10 minutes of the game. So, Marc, I'll throw it over to yourself in terms of what you made on the performance, because there's a little bit of a split here, because Vic's come in saying Jade very poor, speed good but not good enough. What did you see of her obviously over those kind of 75 minutes or so?
I think it's very tough on Jade. She's only played a few minutes before Wednesday night when she got a start against PSG, and she was playing well out of position for me. And then obviously she comes on after 7 minutes of the game, and she did all right. She wasn't out to me. She wasn't outstanding. She really wasn't. But she got up and down the right-hand side really well. She lost the ball a few times for me. That really wasn't. But I think, as someone said, she's lacking that little bit of match fitness. And if Marc said as well, she's not been well all week. She's only had one session. I think you can put a lot of that into take that into account. Look, when we signed Jade, it was on the proviso that she was going to replace Honor, and I think she's going to have to put a lot of work in to get up to Honor standards, because I think she can be a really, really good defender, and she's brilliant going forward. She just needs to get a match fitness up, and I don't think we'll have any problems with her. But yesterday, she was a bit hit and miss for me, if I'm being completely honest.
I think that's pretty fair, as Sophie saying that, I couldn't even turn up to the games, because I was ill for a week, so I missed Arsenal and PSG, and Jade's out there running up and down that right-hand side. So
yeah, but you also ran out of Bill cream.
Damn it! Oh, see, this is back now. This is a joke from the men's channel like 2.5 years ago, when apparently it was the whole Harry Maguire lookalike thing with myself started, hence that comment. And no, I was an awful centre back. I played there a few times, had no chance. Bit further forward, stick me in like the centre attacking midfield role. That's more me. But expect like, I don't know, Berbatov movement. I don't move a lot. So, just expect that if you're playing me there.
But neither does your hair, Connor. So I mean, you don't expect a lot.
I can't believe this. I've actually got your little note thing right next to me that you.
It's an envelope, Connor. It's not a note thing. It's an envelope.
For some reason, I
Barry,
don't know what to
all
call it.
yours. Go for it.
Yeah, talk to us about Jade.
Well, I've said pretty much all I had to say about the defence in general. All I would add with Jade is that we've got to remember she's new to the team, and this is the thing: when you put new elements into the team, it can take a while to, here it comes, gel. So sometimes you just need to think about these sorts of things, and it's like it takes a while. Your quiff isn't built in a day. And neither is going to be Manchester United. So I think it's very important that we accept the fact that the new players are going to need a bit of time to settle and to get used to how each other play. We've put in a lot of new elements. Even in that starting lineup, Jade Riviere is fairly new, Gabby George is fairly new, Miyazawa was fairly new, as is having Mallard as well. So when you start looking at that, that's 4 new players that need to settle into a side. It's not easy. It's not easy to do those things. They are still going to be getting used to each other. People have got to stop trying to measure any of the defenders up against Honor, because you're onto a hiding for nothing there. People love Honor too much. So as a result, when that happens, all you're doing is denigrating players who are doing reasonably well. It just seems to be a United thing at the moment. Fullbacks, bit of a problem. So it doesn't matter where you are. It's the women emulating the men, maybe, with the sort of the lack of depth that we've got. But no, absolutely no problems at all with Jade Riviere. She'll take time, but she works well for Canada. So I can't see any reason why she wouldn't work well for us.
I think that's it. Just give her a bit of time. She's still ridiculously young as well. We're going to get into this conversation as well, Jess, talking about how young players are. She is definitely on the young side before Jennifer in the comments accuses me of saying otherwise. 22 is definitely young for a player, and I will stand by that.
My question is, what's the cut-off? When do players start becoming old?
I would say prime years for an outfielder is 25 to 29, 30. And I think 30 is like... It depends. Some players can go over that 30 range. Goalkeepers, definitely. And I think certain defenders and so on. But I feel like other positions, maybe not. I don't... Marc was shaking his head when I said that. So I don't know if he fully agrees with me. But to me, I'd say mid to late 20s is your prime. Some players are just better and can go past that. But I'd say that. So, what's this here? If can't I use that? Luckily, it was already open when Marc gave it to me yesterday, so there was no need for that. So it's just a little thing there. But you can get one of these. See, if you sign up to the supporters club, you get one of those little badges that you can wear at games as well. I can't believe I called it a note thing. I mean, Jennifer, my knees gave out at like 18, so I think that tells you, like, maybe I'm old. Mary, if you're watching this, I didn't say that.
The sheer weight of that hair, Connor.
You should have seen it. Oh, no, I'm not saying that. You should have seen it when I was younger. I'll just leave it there. But
I feel like I need to see pictures now, so please post them to Twitter later so we can all...
There is absolutely no chance I am posting pictures of that back in the day. I don't want to spend ages on this next one, so I'm just going to race around the three of you and talk obviously about the Leicester goal, because it's not something that's a positive to talk about, and it's not a nice goal to concede. It's a very, very poor goal to concede. Obviously, Jess, we were in the ground. To be honest, we kind of looked at each other and went, how did that go in? Because the sun glare was so much, you couldn't see what was happening on the other side of the pitch anyway for most of the time. Obviously, watching it back, what's your kind of thoughts on that goal? Marc alluded to it in his post-match press conference or his interview, and said that 2 players shouldn't be jumping up for the same ball, which obviously they did. It was a Tissier and Turner, I think it was. They both went up for the same one. Obviously, some people were looking at Mary Earps. Maybe she should save it. I'm not entirely sure. The shot is pretty close. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that goal? And are you a little bit worried? Someone made a comment right at the start saying we've gone behind in every game now that we've played this season. Is that a little bit of a concern for you, that we just keep conceding first?
I mean, I guess it's important to remember that we're still early in the season. Now, I'm normally someone that's really pessimistic, so me saying that is a miracle, really. But yeah, it is early in the season, so we shouldn't get kind of too hung up on it. But that being said, for me, the kind of simplicity and just stupidity almost of that goal. Like the player at the back post was just left kind of completely unmarked in the end. I don't know if it was actually Leah Galton that was. She kind of, I don't know if that was her player she left. It was quite hard to work out, even when I briefly watched it back earlier. To me, that's just basics. That's not even like defending a set piece in the sense that, like Maya's goal, where it ball in, header, goal. It was stupid. It kind of came out, and for me, that's just poor. It's poor kind of management of positioning. It's poor communication. It's just absolute basics that we shouldn't really be getting wrong. So yeah, slightly concerned, but for once, I'm going to channel my inner Barry and try and stay somewhat optimistic.
No, that's fair enough. Mark, I throw it to yourself. There's a couple of people, Highland and JJ, said the same thing, saying it's pretty much a carbon copy of the Rice goal for, obviously, in the men's at the Emirates, the winner there. And watching it back, it does look very similar. Kind of players going for the same ball and it just drops to a player unmarked at the back. Is that kind of how you saw it? And again, same question. Are you a little bit worried that for as good as a defence we had last season, we've conceded in every game and gone behind first in every game so far? But it is very early.
Yeah. So I think so on us conceding, I don't want it to be like the men's side where we have to go behind for us to start playing football. I don't want us to turn into that, because sitting through the men at Old Trafford right now, it's very difficult because it's coming. With the goal yesterday, there's 2 points for me on it. One, I didn't think it was actually a free kick for Leicester. I don't think Hannah touched their player, personally. And after watching it back, if she did touch it, it was minimal. So I don't really think it was a free kick as such. The marking, I agree with what Marc said after the game. Millie and Maya shouldn't have gone for the same ball. But also, there was no one marking at the back post that could have cut down the player. So I think there was a defensive mistake from the side. And I'm pretty sure we'll see improvements on that. But it's 3 games into the WSL, and as Barry said, we're unbeaten. We've not won all 3. We're unbeaten. And I think we're going to score goals for when we get everyone fit. I think we'll be scoring plenty of goals, and defensively we'll get stronger. But I'm not overly worried about us leaking goals right now. We're only leaking, 1 against Villa, 2 against Arsenal, and 1 against. Yesterday it was one of those little freak games. I think yesterday.
I think Mark's pretty much said it all. To be fair, what I would add is, as we said, you can't be going behind in each game. It's good that we're showing that we can come back. We've still got that resiliency. I think it's a worry that we're in that situation at the moment. I also think that last season we were at our best when we got the early goals. When we got the early goals, we settled into the game a lot better, and we seemed to go on to generally control the game. I do disagree with Marc. I did think it was a free kick, and I think it was needless from Hannah Blundell. I thought I saw on the highlights that I was watching a put on the arm. It's not by any stretch of the imagination an outrageous pull. There was no danger of it coming out of the socket. But Leicester knew exactly what they were doing. They hadn't really attacked too much anyway. They only had 4 shots on goal compared to our 20. So Marc said earlier on it was an assured performance insofar as it was pretty much one-sided. Leicester didn't do a huge amount. They were always going to require a set piece. It was terrible to have 2 players going for the same thing, especially when they're as good defenders as Maya and Millie are. Also a bit depressing was to see Rachel Williams just at the front of those 2 as well. So there was 3 people in the spot where that ball was going, and none of them got it. Went over the top of them, and you can't leave people unmarked at the far post in the manner that we did and expect to get away with it. I don't know who was supposed to be there, whether that was supposed to be Hannah, whether that was supposed to be Jade, but yeah, it's not acceptable defending. And I think what was great was seeing Marc's going to come out and call it out for what it was, poor defending, and actually we just can't do that. There was no excuses. We just took it on the chin. So yeah, pretty poor, but mistakes can happen in football. You're never going to have a blemish-free season in that respect. So it happens, you dust off and move on. And to be fair, that's what we did.
Certainly, we're going to get to the equaliser in just a second. I think I agree. I think if this carries on and we get towards the end of November, early December, and we're still going behind in every game and we're still conceding a lot of goals, then I'll start really getting concerned. 4 games in, and the teams we've played, we've played PSG in our first Champions League game. We've played Arsenal, who are a good side. I know we did the double over them last season, but they've got players coming back. They're a good side as well. And Aston Villa, who are a team that everyone has bigged up this season as being the really, the bogey team of the league and all this. We've gone away to there and still got the win there as well. So I'm not majorly concerned just yet, but there are things, there's small little cracks starting to emerge that maybe wasn't there last season, but only time will tell on that one. Speaking of the equaliser, then obviously, Jess, pretty good goal, really, wasn't it? Nice little header over into the far corner, another Zalem assist from a set piece, and yeah, just about at the right time, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, that goal was pretty much absolutely perfect for kind of how you want to score off corner. I'm assuming based on the kind of movement from Tissier, it's something that they've kind of practiced in training, or they're just dead good. But it looked really, really impressive. Good placement on the header. No one's getting that. Best keeper in the world isn't saving that. So for me, pretty spot on, to be honest. I think if we were going to score, which obviously we did, I think we only ever really looked likely to probably score from set pieces. Although I know we had a lot of shots and a lot of chances. I think there was at least one that hit the crossbar. Miyazawa's. I didn't feel like we were that likely to score from open play, despite kind of all our possession. So for me, yeah, goal came perfect time, not too long after Leicester had scored, and did give us quite a nice little boost going towards the second part of the second half.
Yeah, I mean, Marc, I'm just watching the goal back now. I'm actually really glad that Golden didn't get anything on that, because I feel like if she does, there's a questionable offside from when Mayer flicks it on. Leah got his bang in line with the last defender, so there could have been, if Goldwyn had flicked that on, she's pretty close to the goal there, so there could be something in that. But yeah, if you want to talk us through that goal and just I guess getting back into it again, and Letizia is not known for scoring a lot of goals, but she scored, that's her third now, isn't it, in the United shirt? So pops it where it matters.
Yeah, look, I agree with Jess. I think yesterday we were only going to score from set pieces, and I think it was partly down to the delivery from Zell. I mean, everyone, sometimes she doesn't get the credit she deserves, but she's on a dead ball. 9 times out of 10, she hits the mark she wants, and we attack. I think it was one of the very first corners where I actually thought we were going to attack the Leicester keeper, and Maya got a head on it, and it went in the back of the net. At that point, I could only see it from there on. I thought, well, we're going to win this now, because they'll be rattled and everything shaken. But I mean, defensively, you can't knock Leicester. They came to LSV yesterday with a game plan, and it played out. And we couldn't. It's very simple for us all to say, oh, all you had to do was score. But yesterday we couldn't, because Leicester were just defensively playing better than we were.
I want to come back to that point in a second. That will be kind of one of the last points on this game in terms of chance creation and all those kind of things. But Barry, for yourself, again, another set piece assist. It was on the money. It's Paris's run, actually, that drags the defender at the front post away. So Mayer's got pretty much a free header. Just a well-worked free kick. A well-worked set piece, isn't it?
Of course it was. I mean, again, people have been bemoaning the attacking threat. As I said, we had 20 shots compared to their 4. 8 of ours are on target, 2 of theirs are on target. The big difference between Leicester of last year and the Leicester of this year is the fact they've got RB Leipzig in goal. And, when you stick an entire German team in the in the goal, it's going to be hard to beat, isn't it? And it felt like there was an entire German team stood on the line, to be fair, because she did make some pretty good saves. We did force some saves out of her. I think the problem is, you put Nikita Paris in. She had a few opportunities that were quite good. Couple of saves that were made. She didn't do the sort of stuff she could do. Of course, if Miyazawa scores in the first half instead of smashing it against the bar, if Mallard heads that into the goal that was open at that point rather than heading it over the bar, again, we've probably got a different game, because we don't go behind and we get the opportunity to try and defend a lead rather than having to try and come back. So I just think things like that we do need to we need to be more clinical, absolutely, but we can't sit here and say we haven't had the chances to score. What I will say, Nikita Paris as well had a header right towards the end that she could have scored. As Sporty says, not clinical enough. And I get that. You do need to be more clinical. But again, the chances are being made. And that's an important thing to remember, because for me, that's where you then start talking about Katie Zellum. I've seen it already. The usual suspects were already going to get it. Marc Skinner got it earlier on in the show. And now we've got the same thing happening. You know, Katie Zellum, one of those players who should be taken off. Unbelievable. The stats that you get for her. She leads Europe's top 5 women's leagues in terms of assists from set pieces. There is nobody in Europe's top 5 leagues. Just let that sink in just for a moment, a bit like your hair gel. There is nobody in Europe's top 5 leagues who have more assists from set pieces than Katie Zellum. Now, that is a massive strength to have. If you know that you're going to get set pieces, and that they are more often than not going to be delivered in fantastic spaces for people to not just have a go at, but to score from, you play that person. But then people question why it is that she's the captain. Why is it that she's doing it? Well, this is why. Because Katie Zellum brings a little bit of everything. She is massively underrated. And frankly, when I see people that say to me they don't rate Katie Zellum, at that point I realise I don't rate their opinion on football generally, because they're not watching properly. In my opinion, I've gone all Stu Woolley there. I realise I've gone very, very highbrow on that one, and arrogant maybe, but I just don't, because I can't understand why anybody would sit there and have a go at that. That was a pinpoint delivery. You look at the game against Arsenal last year, we didn't get those goals from Millie Turner and Leslie Russo unless you have that pinpoint delivery from Katie Zellum. But yet she's still going to get all the rubbish, all the crap. We should take her off to bring on Guerrero. We should take her off for all these other people. It's a madness, kind of. Genuinely, it really frustrates me as a Manchester United fan to see how quickly we just batter down our own players rather than trying to have a bit more support and a bit more love over them. It's mental. We do it in the men's game all the time. Can we stop doing it? Can we normalise actually just supporting your team and not constantly having to try and find a negative? And for me, that's my Katie Zellum rant over.
Can I just carry on with that? I understand why people are going to say Mayer, player of the match yesterday. But if you look at all the other footballing apps, the player of the match was Katie Zellum. And when you ask around later on, Connor, I'm going to give the spoiler now. My player of the match, Katie Zellum. I know I know the Mayer gets the plaudits for scoring the goal. It was a great goal. But that goal doesn't happen if Katie Zellum doesn't take that corner. And when Katie doesn't take our set pieces, I think we lose something. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand why she gets the hate she gets. I don't understand it. I'll never understand it like you said, Barry. But for me, Katie Zellum yesterday, and as Charlie said, she made the most tackles. She did, all the things that Charlie said. I'm not going to go through them all. But on all the other footballing apps yesterday, Katie Zellum was out by far voted as player of the match. Now, people may want to believe the apps, they may not. But yesterday, watching the game live, I would say Katie was by far the best player. And people can bash her all she wants, and I'm not going to. I have my opinion, and football is all about an opinion. But for me, yesterday, Katie Zellum is by far the best player, and her free kicks, corner kicks, are by far the best. And that, for me, that's the conversation.
Yeah, well, I'll come back to my player in the match second because she's not mine. However, I will back up what you've both just said about her because, again, delivery's on it all the time. And again, I think this is going to lead into the question. But before I get into that, obviously, Dave's mentioned there's a lot of non-sports in the Leicester. I got to be honest, I like it. I know it's against United. There was a thing in the second half, and obviously I know people were calling for a foul, but when Leipzig went through Paris and the Leicester defender, I love a keeper that does that. Go through that ball's mine. I don't care who's in the way. Just clean them straight out. I've got no issue with that personally because I think I don't know. I want to see United doing a bit more of that and doing those tactical fouls and doing all the dirty side of the game because that's what champions do.
The one that annoyed me was was when their keeper went down with cramp. That one annoyed me.
She did it twice, didn't she? She did it once in the first half, and then all the Leicester players conveniently went off for a drink. Like, oh yeah, what's going on here?
I think that's one thing they really need to clamp down on across the league. Keepers going down, just so like players can go off and have a chat with the manager. That's one thing that really annoys me. The whole like time wasting thing, that is infuriating as hell when you're on the other side, when you're on the team that wants to hurry the game up. It's infuriating as hell. But when you're in the position that you're winning, or like Leicester, that's a good result for them. So I can fully understand why they're time wasting. And they did their game management was actually really, really good. And like Connor said, United could probably actually take a couple of hints from that, because that is how you see out a game. And it's just horrible because it was against us in that situation. But it works, and it's kind of just everyone does it. And like I say, it's just only annoying when it's being done against you.
Also, the other rule that infuriated me yesterday is when a player went off injured, they're supposed to be off the pitch for 30 seconds.
Leicester made a sub, didn't they, in the second half?
And they came straight back on. And yes, the referee yesterday I thought was poor anyway, but I won't go into that.
For sure. Just very quickly on a comment, Vic wanted me to shout that one out because she put it in caps, so I assume. So Grace Clinton's goal yesterday, by the way, if anyone hasn't seen it, absolute rocket against Brighton. So she's smashing it as we thought she would do down there. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens when she comes back to United and what the long-term plan is for her, because she's had a successful loan already, and she's already hit the ground running with Spurs. So there's a real player in there, that's for sure.
That's frustrating when we see players doing it at the WSL club. It's one thing when she goes and does it for Bristol City. When they're coming in and doing it for a WSL club, you have to sort of sit there and think, was it worth keeping her? To be fair, I watched her in that pre-season friendly beginning of last season, and I was more than happy for Grace Clinton to come in and play. Instead, we sent her out on loan, faffed about with Ella Toon, and as a result, we did well. I'm not going to have a go at last season, but yeah, you would have thought that with her doing well at Bristol City, maybe this season was her season to have a go. And it's just a bit of a shame. It's good that she's doing well, though.
I believe Marc's got the answer for you on that one.
Yes, first game.
There we go. It was. I don't remember being too annoyed. I think I was more annoyed at what was going on on the pitch, to be honest. But it's one of those. There was definitely a lot of time which, to be fair, I just expect it now. So, but it does need looking at, that's for sure. But to be honest, if you add all that up as well, I mean, we already had 17 minutes added on. If you add them up over the 2 halves, 7 in the first, 10 in the second, so would have been quite some minutes on that one. My kind of final point on the game is, or the question, I guess, on the game itself. Now, the reason I want to ask this, because when I put the tweet out yesterday for the AFU, asking obviously what people thought of the game and so on, I put on there the lack of clear-cut chances. Barry's already mentioned, obviously, we had 20 shots, 8 on target, and so on. But Jess, how did you kind of see the game from a chance creation point? Because for me, first half, obviously, with the bar, Paris had a couple of chances. That second half, I genuinely can't remember a chance we had that wasn't a cross that went over everybody, or, we had a lot of possession in the final third, but I don't remember us having any clear-cut chances on goal, apart from the goal itself, and then Paris's one right at the end, where she headed it straight down the middle. What are your kind of thoughts on that? Are you a little bit, I guess, worried again that maybe we're not creating as many chances as we did last season?
Yeah, so one of the points I was going to make tonight was that when we played in, I think it was the frustrating Everton draw last season, I'm sure we had a lot of shots, but we just couldn't finish any. Whereas I thought that on Sunday, we just didn't really create anything. So when I saw the stats and saw that we'd actually had 20 shots, I was like, when and where? Because I just don't recall it from my memory, which I will admit the sun was completely blinding me for that first half, basically, because it was all at the other end. So maybe we had kind of like 15 shots then that I just couldn't physically see. But I think the problem is when you kind of look at the stats, some of those shots, because I saw a couple in the highlights, some of them were weak as hell. I would struggle to even call them shots. So yeah, I do think that kind of creativity-wise, we are lacking something. Just seems to be a bit of kind of miscommunication, or I don't know, just sort of wrong decisions, let's say, being made around the final third. That being said, we did have a couple of good opportunities. I mentioned before, Miyazawa hit the bar. That was fantastic. Really, really unlucky. You know, that, like with anything, a few inches down, that's going in. Connor, I think you mentioned before, Paris's kind of chance right towards the end. For me, she's got to make connection there. I don't actually know how she just didn't seem to connect very well. If she does, I think that's going in. So whilst I do think we were unlucky on a couple of occasions, I do think we've got to be creating more kind of clear-cut chances or big chances, especially against a team kind of like Leicester, who I know have sort of recruited fairly well over the transfer window and got a very good keeper. But I don't think we really tested the keeper as much as I would have liked to have seen.
I think that's it, because, you know, obviously Leipzig for me is one of the best keepers around, but I don't remember her having to make, like, she never pulled off. And watching the highlights back, it's not like I'm going, oh, that's a really good save. That it was like, oh, I'd expect most keepers in the league to save those. But I mean, Marc, for yourself, what do you kind of make on the chance creation? Another thing I wanted to bring up was, obviously there was a lot of talk online as well about players looking tired again. This old thing that comes up. There was a lot of players. There was a lot of frustration, obviously, in the crowd. You could feel it, that players just weren't moving off the ball. There was a lot of standing around, obviously, particularly in that second half. And looking at the breakdown, there was most of the shots were in the first half. There was only 6 apparently in the second, so a lot less in the second half than there was in the first. What do you make on our attacking output and that point about players maybe looking a little bit tired already, or maybe just not moving off the ball enough?
I thought the chances we created were all good chances. I just think yesterday we struggled with someone putting the ball in the net. You know, Lucia in the first half, from what we could see from the terrace, you know, without being blinded, was she wasn't taking the shot. She was getting into a good position, and then instead of taking a shot like she would have done last season, she was trying to pass the ball through 3 players' legs. Overall, though, I'm not overly upset about the number of chances we created. We're clearly creating the chances. Yesterday, we struggled to put the ball in the back of the net. And I think that's what it came down to. As for players looking tired, look, the players I would expect to be tired would have been Millie, Mayer, Zelly, because they played the full 90 against PSG. I wouldn't have expected really many of the others to be as tired, and Hannah, sorry. So I can't really buy that yesterday. Look, the 4 of them went through a very tough game against PSG. There's no arguing that, but they will have also had a good recovery day, I would expect, in a light training session, you know, Thursday or Friday. So I don't know if I want to buy that as an excuse. I don't. It doesn't sit well with me, being honest.
It doesn't for me either, and I really don't want to single a player out, but I'm going to use her as an example. Ella Toon was the one I was really surprised at, because she didn't start the game, came on later on in the game, and just, to me, wasn't moving off the ball. It's the one time I really got annoyed in the second half, because she, for me, killed 2 or 3 counter-attacks by just stopping dead with the ball. And I'm like, is the ref blown for something? Why she stopped? Like, and everyone else carried on running. She wasn't the only one. That was just the first player that sprung to mind. I think Ladd did it a lot. Galton did it quite a few times when she came on as well. And it's like, I don't understand where this lack of it. Last season, we saw it. The fullbacks were constantly bombing on. And, you know, we had these fast transitions. It was one of the things we were really good at, winning the ball higher up and that fast transition into attack. But I've not seen it this season. And me personally, I can't understand why. And it's starting to worry me a little bit, not going to lie, because I'm all right with conceding a few goals if we score a load, but we don't seem to have that, I guess, cutting edge that we did last season.
And you know, you can talk about Ella yesterday, and you know what, people can say she wasn't great. I didn't think she was brilliant, but I also didn't think Hayley Ladd was that great either, and that's why I said at the very beginning I probably wouldn't have started her. I like Hayley. I think she's a great player, but we're playing Leicester at LSV, which is our fortress, as Marc said, and we didn't need 2 defensive midfielders.
And I think, this, and Barry, I'm going to come to you on this again, that question, but also a follow-up one as well. And this is, again, opens up a whole conversation. But something obviously was spoke about a lot online, and also something we spoke about, that there's this talk that we always play backwards and all these kinds of things. But I think that comes from players not moving off the ball, because when you've got the ball in midfield, there's nobody moving around you. Your only option is to go back. And also, I make this point a lot, that when you've got a team playing as defensively as Leicester, well, fair enough, they're going for a draw, and that's what they're going to do. You've got to play the ball around the back to pull Leicester out, because if you're constantly playing through the middle or whatever, they're just going to sit in the block. You've got to go backwards to bring Leicester out so you can play over the top. So, yeah, I don't know what the question is, but all of that to you, Barry. Make your points on that one.
Right, let's start at the beginning, because that's what you said. You were talking about the shooting and, the chances. Second half, no, we didn't have many. We had the goal and we had Nikita Parris's header, which he did get a little connection on, but not a very good one. And those were the only two chances that I wrote down for the second half. For the first half, though, Parris had a shot that the goalkeeper had to save. Parris had another shot that the goalkeeper saved after Miyazawa and Mallard had done a nice bit of interplay between them and pushed the ball up for Nikita again. Katie Zellum had a shot that was pushed behind by the goalkeeper. Miyazawa hit the bar. Then Mallard headed over, but neither of those would count as shots on target. And Lucia Garcia also had a shot at the near post that was turned around as well. So that was 5 opportunities, 6 if you want to include Mallard's rebound effort. And that's where your 8 chances coming from, although not all of those obviously on target. So the simple fact is that the chances were there. I think the problem was just the finishing. The goalkeeper for a start did incredibly well, which was good. And that's what I mean. You're saying, even though she's a good goalkeeper, has she made many saves? Well, I've just listed there at least 4 that she made in the first half. And if even one of those goes in, then it's a different game. So that's my first point about that. My second point, when you start talking about people being tired, I think it comes down to it. I've been an advocate for a long time, and I know everybody in the world entirely disagrees with me, but you play your best 11. Like, that's the purpose of football. You take your best 11 players and you play them. And frankly, I don't care who that upsets in the team. Ultimately, your job, especially in women's football where there are so few games to play, is to win the games. And if you're going to do that, you're going to need as many players as you possibly can, absolutely. But for me, replace them when they're injured. Replace them when they're not playing. I don't particularly care. You might make the odd change if you feel like you need to, but you play your best 11. And we didn't do that. And once again, we're in a situation where we have moved players around. We've changed players. This starting 11, we'll probably get to it after this question, but this starting 11, is that going to be the starting 11 on Wednesday? No, it's not. Well, then that's clearly not your best 11, because you're going to assume he's going to put out what he thinks his best 11 is for that game against Paris Saint-Germain. So that was a big thing. Another thing on the second half, obviously, he made a lot of changes. Ella Toone came on, Rachel Williams came on, and Leah Galton came on. It was, Nikita Parris I thought was better on the right-hand side, but it still wasn't ideal. Again, we made these changes and the people that have come on didn't perform to the level they need to. Ella Toone has not been right for the best part of 2 years. She really hasn't. And that's frustrating to say, because she's one of my favourite players and I look forward to seeing her play. But at the moment, she's not at the level that she has set for herself. And I don't know what the reason is for that. So that's interesting in that respect. The last thing, based on what you asked me about the midfield and all that sort of thing, Katie Zellum lost the ball a couple of times in the game at the weekend because she's just standing on the ball. Movement off the ball is vital. People need to move. You're right. You do play backwards in the hope you're going to draw Leicester on. But if Leicester are playing for a draw, they're not going to fall into that trap, are they? They're not going to bring themselves forward to do that. So really all you're trying to do is to try and find that space on the sides. So you want to go backwards, try and shift it side to side in the hope that you're going to find that room to get into the middle. And exactly. And that's where you get your drama, I think, is that actually you can do that and you can pass backwards, you can pass sideways. The simple fact is it's not really about going backwards or forwards. It's about, are the players around you putting the effort in, putting the graft in to move and to drag those players. You talked about the goal, Nikita Parris running, dragging one of the players off. If you're too static in the midfield and you're not moving around, then it's easy to mark. and it's easy to block off the passes and the channels and the lanes that you're going to pass through. So, simply put, if you're up against a team that's going to sit back and that's going to do that, it's your job to find the way through, and the best way to do that is with movement. And if you've got a tide that's entirely knackered and isn't running and isn't doing what they're supposed to do, you're not going to find those channels because there's nobody running into them. So, yeah, it's a nightmare, but that's where we are.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, I don't disagree with any of the points you made. I think the tide argument is just weird to me because some of these players didn't go to the World Cup. Well, a lot of our players didn't go to the World Cup and didn't play. So that whole thing of, they're tired from the World Cup, most of our players didn't go. So they shouldn't be already 4 games into a season. That would be a little bit concerning if they are already. I don't know. I don't think anyone on here can put a finger on that one. In regards to that, there's no official word from the club. I wouldn't hold your breath to be seeing her anytime soon.
He's singing off his Michael Jackson song there, isn't he? Gabby, are you okay? Are you okay, Gabby?
That's terrible, that is. But there was a question a bit further up. I can't find it now. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about PSG. We'll get to that in just a second. And so we'll just do player of the match before we get to PSG, because obviously it kind of ties in a little bit to Leicester. So looking at the poll results, Tissier did win it with 61%, Zellum on 24%, Riviere on 8%, and Paris on 5%. Jess, would you have gone for Tissier or would you have gone for somebody else?
I was kind of torn between Letiz and Zell, but I am going to go for Zell because I think she had a really good game and is just kind of underappreciated. I do think that due to how we're kind of playing at the minute is probably what is kind of causing Zellum to kind of catch all this grief from fans, which he shouldn't be getting, because she's the player that basically has to hold up the ball and look to pass it forward. Now, if you've not got anyone running, you cannot pass it forward. If you've not got movement, you have 2 choices. You either turn, play it sideways, play it backwards, or you just smash it into a gap and hope for the best. So until we have supporting players moving more, she's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So, yeah, for that, I think she had a really good game. So she is my player of the match.
Mine is, as I said before, Zelly, for everything Jess said. And without her, we wouldn't have scored the goal. And I think she needs some credit where credit's due, Zelly. So for me, Zelly.
Sorry. I'm mute. It was a nightmare. Exactly. I'd already told you mine's Katie Zellum. I can understand why people went for Mary Tissier. She did score the goal and it was a good goal. She had a couple of good long distance passes. For me as well, though, also partially culpable for the goal that we conceded in the first place that we're trying to come back. So, there is that as well to throw in there. But yeah, for me, Katie Zellum, I think the bigger question with player of the match is how hard it was to get 4 players on our poll in terms of who stood out the most. I think that it was really between Katie and Maya, to be honest with you. And that's not to necessarily denigrate any of the others. It's just that they were all fairly average performances with very few standout players, which is hence probably why we didn't beat Leicester.
Yeah, I tend to agree. A player that I will mention, because there was a lot, obviously, in the chat earlier, Mia Zhao was another player that we were going to put on that poll. She was, again, very close to making it on. There was a few shouts for her earlier on as well. I don't even know who. I would have probably gone for Jade. Maybe I saw the game differently. I just thought Jade was really good. She had when she first came on, she got beaten to a ball and then got barged over, and I was like, oh no, not again. First 90 seconds or so, she had a really rough couple of minutes after coming on. But after that, I thought she was pretty solid up and down that right-hand side. So I would have gone for Jade, but I can understand the reasons for Tissier and also for Zellum as well.
You got hair to the eyes when you were watching, did it?
No chance.
Yeah, hot, wasn't it? It was melting into the eyes.
I was melting. That's because I'd be cold.
Yeah, the sun wasn't in his eyes, Barry. You moved his quiff down to use it as a shade. Yeah.
It's like his very own travel cap.
Yeah, he doesn't need one.
It's like that.
If I did do that, I mean, look at that.
Look, he's showing off now.
It's unreal.
Ridiculous. I what I was going to say now. I also wanted to mention, I do agree with the point on Zella match that I feel like the players around her, I think she'd play better with a Guerrero, with a Lisa Nelson, just somebody like that is a bit more progressive. And I think we'll see a better Zellum if we have players like that around her. Or maybe even put Miyazawa back there. Put Miyazawa and Toon together and put Miyazawa alongside Zellum. That's maybe something we could try. Looking ahead to Wednesday, then obviously the big one, the PSG game, and I think we were all saying in the pub afterwards that, and a lot of fans speaking to after the game, that if we go to Paris and win, nobody's going to care about this Leicester result. It's just not going to matter. Jess, for yourself, obviously a lot of talking about lineups and all those kinds of things. What do you want to see lineup wise going out to Paris? Obviously, we saw a bit of a change one in the first leg with Jade out of right wing and Lisa Nelson came in. What would you? I'm not acknowledging that. What do you want to see lineup-wise from Paris?
I almost think because of what the lineup was last week for the home game against Paris, I don't even know what to kind of predict for this week. That being said, obviously I'd like to see Jace back. Like to see... Do you know what? I'm struggling. I don't know. I think I'd like to see Miyazawa start again. Maybe, like you say, Connor, Miyazawa, Toon, and Zellum. I think that could be really interesting. Although maybe not the game to kind of trial that. Maybe we do need a little bit more of a defensive-minded midfielder in there. Maybe Lisa again. For lads, I don't think lads had the best start to the season. But I would like to see Melvin maybe start again, either down the middle or out wide.
No, it's a fair point. I've clicked on the wrong comment. There's what? I don't live far from Birmingham either, so maybe I don't know. And what is this? What? No. And following on from that, what is this? No. There is no way. I'm going bold. That's not happening.
Can I just make the point? Barry and I didn't make the choice to go bald. It happens.
Yeah, it's true. You're all sitting there talking about it like somebody earlier on said to you, "Oh, Connor, bless him, he really looks after his hair." I used to look after my hair when I had it, and then it just went. Once it goes, time and tide and hairline waits for no man.
Don't listen to him, Connor. That quiff will go on forever. It'll be eternal.
It does it already. They're still trying to find the finish.
It will stay.
Rumour has it that if you undone all of Connor's hair and his intestines, the hair would still be longer.
Dear me, like I said, believe it or not, I will say it. Why not? My hair was past my shoulders in school, so it was. You thought it was long then, like long now. It was long about then.
Right, Connor. For the next show, you're going to have to do like a little PowerPoint presentation of like your previous looks. Because you've mentioned a couple of things now, and we are all heavily invested in what young Connor looked like.
You need to put photos up, Connor, or I will get some photoshopped.
Yeah.
This is back when he was DJ Quiff.
What's this, like Connor through the years? Can't be doing that.
I think the fans want to see it, to be honest with you.
No chance.
Put a poll out.
Sounds like a good idea to me. Only somebody does have access to a Twitter.
Oh dear. Yeah, there's always hair talk on this channel. Yeah. Oh yes, agree on that one as well. Don't even know what the question was. Mark, the team from Wednesday, what do you want to be seeing? Because I said it was a pretty changed one in the first leg in the first half. Obviously changed pretty quick in the second. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that one?
I think it's going to be. I hope it's going to be as I expect. Back four with Jade at right back, Hannah at left back, Millie and Maya in the middle. Zelly will play. I think he'll put Tooney back in. Leo will be back in. Jace up front, and then out on the wings. I think it'll be. I would like it to be Garcia on one side. And if, maybe go with Mallard as a two up front, I just want him to go out and just attack him because defensively, I don't think PSG are great. I think once we got in behind them last week, they they looked like they could concede a goal or two. So I just want us to go out and play on the front foot. I think the team will be strong, and the rest will take care of itself.
And Barry, what do you want to see? And obviously, Jace is the main one. We're expecting her to come in and play. What would you be looking at for the rest of the team? Obviously, Marc's mentioned Toon and Galton there. We expect them to start, considering they were on the bench for Leicester. Is there anything else you'd be looking to mix around?
Yeah, Mary Apps in goal, Jade Riviere right back, Mela Tissier and Millie Turner as the centre backs, because you never split up a good centre back partnership, and Hannah Blundell on the left hand side. Katie Zellum definitely starts because that's like going to war without a gun. We'll have Miyazawa for me playing as well, with Mallard, Jays, and Galton as your front three. The one I'm struggling with is who goes in alongside Zell at the moment. I'm not convinced that Hayley's had her greatest start to a season with Manchester United this season. So part of me is tempted to go with someone like Nielsen. I don't think you throw Guerrero in for her first game. I think that's a big game to go and throw somebody in. Maybe she comes on as a sub. So, yeah, I think potentially Nielsen I might put alongside Zelly. So, to me, that would possibly be our strongest lineup at the moment. I think the question really is who partners Zelly is the main question for me in terms of what our top 11 looks like. I'd like to as well, Chris, but I just don't think you take someone who hasn't played a game yet and go, this is the one you start on when so much rides on it, and it really does. I can't wait. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a good game. I think whatever happens, it should be enjoyable. I'm delighted for all the Man United fans that are going to be going off over to Paris and getting the opportunity to do something. Some people went over to, was it Paris? It was the trophy was in that little pre-season friendly tournament we did. That was in Paris, wasn't it?
Toulouse, that was.
Toulouse.
Oh, it was in France. I couldn't remember which one it was. But but Paris were in it, weren't they? PSG. That was who we played. There we go. That's where I'm getting mixed up. 41, it happens. We get a bit confused. But yeah, so I think the fact that they've got the opportunity to go to Paris, the chance to see some European football, whatever happens, it is, a truly magnificent day for Manchester United Women's Football Club to have that opportunity to go out and play in the Champions League. It's something we've been looking forward to. So it's something we should enjoy whatever the scoreline is. But obviously, if we don't win, we're not going to enjoy it. So you've got to go out on your best side, and that's the one that I would pick.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think the team you said, I would agree with Erlen. I think I would put Nielsen alongside Zellum purely because she played. Obviously, the first leg, and she was all right in the game against PSG in the first one, but I would go for Lisa just pure based off that, and then obviously see where the game is.
The thing for me on that one, he's picked the same side that I has. He's just put Tuni in instead of Miyazawa. So, I'd be interested to see, what did you both say for your player to be in the Tuni position? Did you both go Toon as well?
Me personally, I want it to be Miyazawa, but it won't be.
Yeah, I think I would rather Miyazawa because I just, like we've kind of said a few times, Tuni's just not been on form for quite a while now. So for that reason, I would go Miyazawa, but I can't actually remember what I said to begin with.
I said it would be Toon, but actually, I wouldn't have an issue if Hinata starts.
There you go.
That's fair.
You know what to do, boy. You know what to do.
That's an underrated comment by Sporty, that, by the way. I like that. It's a little bit of wordplay on that.
Listen, this is why you need help sometimes, mate. Because
it's clever. It's very good.
It is clever, but I am fairly certain somebody got there first.
Oh, he did. Yeah, highlight is that one.
High Lane got there first. I was like, "Can't take it off, Connor. What are you playing at?" Right, stop it now. There you go. High Lane got there first. It's a cracking joke. They're both very clever people, but come on now.
That's a good one. That I like it. Yes. Not avoiding it, TJ. I just don't really want to big up PSG 2 days before we play them, to be honest. But yes, that left-hand side needs looking. Obviously, the Jade and Hannah in the first half got absolutely battered down that side. It's one of the best. To me, I said it on the show, the review show. To me, that's one of the best left sides in Europe with Karshawi and showing it down that side. It's an unbelievable.
What's going to be interesting about that is that I hope everyone agrees with me that Blundell will shift out to the left-hand side and Riviere will stay on the right. So you've got a different right defender. So it'll be interesting to see how that left-hand side gets on against the class act that is Jade Riviere. And if push comes to shove, just throw Maya out there. She'll sort him out.
I think that's going to be the thing. It depends how fit Jade is. Because I think TJ made the point earlier, I don't want to see an unfit Jade against a fully fit Chewinga. And as someone did make the point as well, PSG have had a rest as well because of some issues in their game at the weekend involving fireworks on the pitch and all that kind of thing. So they've not actually played this weekend. So they've had an extended break.
Controversially, if Jade isn't fit enough to start on Wednesday, I would start Leah at left back and move Hannah to the right.
That's a different show.
Isn't it?
Just some pace down that left-hand side. Pace and pace.
I think that's fair. What?
Or, in that situation, do you get... Yeah, I don't think so.
Have I read that right?
You could go 5 at the back on that one, your 3 centre-backs, then try and go, sort of a 3-4-3 formation, which would then, keep Leah and Garcia potentially, or Mallard on that right-hand side. That could work also.
As Connor said, though, their left-hand side is extremely strong. And last Tuesday night, we were outrun down that side with Jade and Hannah there. So, I hope Jade's fit because she's going to, if she is, she'll have a really good game there.
Do you know, I can see him going, Jade and Hannah again. Having said that, then we don't have another fullback with George out. No, ignore that. The reason why I say that is because if it's going to be Jace on the right-hand side, this is why it makes me think I don't think Jace and Mallard will start together. Because Jace on the right, she doesn't track back a lot, let's be honest. Which, to be fair enough. That's just kind of her game. We're going to need somebody who tracks back to help with Karshawi and Chewinga on that side. So I feel like whoever plays on the right, he might go Paris again. He might go Paris or Garcia purely for somebody who can track back and help the right back out. Because otherwise I feel like we're going to be exposed a lot on that side.
That makes more sense.
There we go. That makes more sense. I was going to say Jace at left back. I don't want to be seeing that because something's gone really wrong. What? Who's this? I've only just seen it. Yeah, I don't want to see her playing. I know I'm not going to comment on her Leicester performance because I don't think she was great on that one. There's a comment a bit further up. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yes, it is.
And she's not in.
There we go. Yeah, because no. Just no. I'd rather see Evie Rabjon, I think, be put in that back line than Gemma, I've got to be honest. There's a question, I think that's mainly for you, Mark, because you're the only one on this panel that's going. It's digital, isn't it?
Digital.
Everything's digital now.
Digital tickets. Anyone who asked to get a ticket or bought a ticket, they were emailed out today to everyone.
There we go. I don't know the answer to that one.
When Gemma Evans came on for Jade Riviere, what was the left back, right back situation then? Did Gemma play in the fullback position?
She was at left back, wasn't she?
So basically, we've done to what we've done to Thor.
To be fair, she is a centre back, isn't she?
Playing. So
she played at left back in pre-season, didn't she? Or played at right back?
Let's just say it's too early to tell. She's only played a few minutes.
I thought you were going to say she's only young then. I was like, I'm pretty sure she isn't.
Well, no, we've established that by the time you hit 30, that's it. You may as well give up.
Indeed. And yes, you will. You'll see us in the standing terrace. I think the season ticket's been moved. Obviously, that was a thing that went out the other day.
Yeah, just very quickly, and anyone who did ask for a move, you will receive a new season ticket from the club soon.
There we go. And it has just been confirmed, by the way. Someone's put it in our private chat, and I have just read it. David Ornstein has confirmed that it is an ACL injury for Gabby George. Obviously, can we just ban knees from just the human body?
It's just like beyond a joke now, to be honest. It's just insane.
Yeah, so obviously thoughts out to her, and hopefully she recovers well. And it's just, I'm going to say it how it is. It's just shit, to be honest, because it's, again, as we said earlier, player who dream move comes to United and starts well, and that happens.
But that's her and Emma Watson, and that's, you know, Emma Watson coming from north of the border, and then you have Gabby George coming from Everton as well. Like, you know, you just sort of wonder quite what's going on in some of these other clubs at the moment, because we did really well last season not to have any, so maybe we're quite lucky. But yeah, it's pants, isn't it?
Oh, well, that's quite a bit of a shitter on the end of the show. I've swore twice in 2 minutes. What am I doing?
Why don't we have a look at this? What else do we think is ruining the game? Because, you know, when I think of things that are ruining the game, digital tickets is way down on my list of things that are winding me up when it comes to football.
Considering we're talking about like ACLs on one hand, digital tickets.
ACLs.
Yeah. Do you know what's ruining the game? Jess taking a swing at me in the first half because I was stressing her out. That's what was.
Trying to move the hair out your eyes.
Do you know what? I've happily watched the first couple of games just by myself, and it's been great. Connor comes back.
Just come and move over with us. Don't leave him alone with his quiff to let it flop around in the wind or whatever it does. Just move away.
To be fair, I'm not sure that I was any better. I was getting really angry. I really was.
You would have fit right in with us. John Devonport, his language was as bad as it ever is. Sorry, John, but it was.
Oh, that's fine with it. In fact, actually, on those highlights I was watching, there was, I think it was the Paris chance right at the end. I could just see me in the background, like turning around and like have the hands on my head. And I don't know if I was turning around to like beat Connor up or what, but I did briefly see myself because I was wearing the bright green top, so it always stands out. But yeah, it was a stressful time to say the least for all of us.
Yeah, not. Yeah. It's what it is. You love it, really. Yes. And yeah, I agree with what we were saying earlier when we were talking about Gabby George. It's not looking good on that front. For a team that stayed so injury-free last season, we're picking up injuries and knocks all over the place. So I hope that stops immediately. You've been called out, Marc.
Yeah.
I'll buy you a pint in Paris, John. You'll be fine.
Indeed. Right, before we wrap this one up then, what's your score predictions for Wednesday? What we're all going for in terms of a result? I've been racking my brains what I'm going to say for this because I don't like...
If I can give you where I'm going straight away because I know where I am with it. I think it's going to extra time and penalties.
Oh, no, don't even say those words. I feel sick thinking about it.
That's genuinely where I think this game will go.
If this game goes to extra time, I will be turning that television off and I'll be walking out of this house and I will not be returning ever again. Potentially, you might never see me ever again because I cannot handle that kind of stress. I am actually feeling quite optimistic, which is really weird for me. But I think we're going to win. Don't ask what the score is going to be. I just think we're going to win.
Sorry, we're going to win in extra time and on penalties. That's what. Sorry,
maybe.
Yeah, I felt like there was a chance we could end up drawing it, and it ends up going to penalties. Was my initial thought. I think it's either that or we nick it by the odd goal. So that could just be me being biased. Vic, is quite sad, really. You've got to go with hope more than anything else. So yeah, a narrow victory or penalties, which is another reason for Ella to not to be on the pitch. Because if she does one like she did against Aston Villa in the Conti Cup, then oh my goodness.
Do you know what? I don't think I've ever actually seen her take a good penalty, to be honest. I love her to bits. She's like my favourite player, but like me, some people just are not made for penalties.
Vic's going to hate you for that. I'm going to get a message in a minute saying I'm never watching this channel again.
I mean, to be fair, it's part of the reason why I said it. I knew it was grinding their gears a little bit.
Yeah, I think it will be. You know, do we know, by the way, how many tickets PSG have sold in the home end? Because to look at how many they've sold, you've got to sign up to their website, and I really don't want to do that. So I'm kind of hoping somebody else has, so they can fill me in on how many PSG have sold, because I've got no idea.
I'll just say, I really hope Jays doesn't break it. I mean, we need Mallard as well. I mean, that'll be 3 injuries, and we can't be doing with that. So let's not be breaking any ducks, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I agree with that. We rested Jace for a reason. So hopefully she can score. Do you know what? I want Mallard to score the winner, because they're going to hate that being on loan from Leon. So I really hope it's her, to be honest.
Yes, I have. And it was atrocious. You would have taken a better penalty. You would have taken a better penalty, Vic, whilst on your horse.
Oh, dear. Indeed. There's a lot of United fans going, isn't there? I'm pretty sure, isn't it? It's pretty much sold out, isn't it? The away end. Or is it not? Mark's shaking his head. Mark will have a better idea than I have. But I thought it looked good, but maybe it isn't. We'll see.
Quiet.
We shall see. It will be good regardless. I think for me, I don't know. I can't come on here and say PSG are going to win.
No, even I've been optimistic, so you've got to also.
2-1 United then.
Thank you.
In normal time. No extra time or none of that.
You don't want no jeopardy, Connor. That's unlike you.
No, that's jeopardy too. Can you imagine? We're 2-1 up holding the lead.
Jeopardy, mate.
Oh God, I feel sick thinking about it, to be honest.
Can I just point out, if you're getting a rendition of that, it's got to be Durfeet tool, surely. You've got a doff like that.
I'll have to try and work it out. And it also depends how many beers we've had during the day. It could be worse than 2 feet tall.
True.
Indeed. Vic is a big Tooney fan. I hope Tooney comes back to form, as everyone said. But I just
listen. Tooney scores the winning goal. I'll be on here eating humble pie without a shadow of a doubt. I
absolutely love Tooney. She's literally my favourite player. Potentially my favourite person, to be honest, on the whole planet. So for more than anyone else, I think she is the player that I want to see get back to how good she can be.
We got her till 2027, so we need her to do it at some point.
It's fine, just biding her time.
Who knows? I don't care who scores tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Wednesday night. As long as we get the win and make it through to the group change, that will be quite something. Not having any of that. PSG will win.
I mean, I think Vic's a bit upset today. He's
look, as long as we win, we don't go in the Conti Cup, and that for me is all the incentive I need for us to win. Is that we're not in the Conti Cup till the later rounds.
I was going to say, what are we? Would we get put in the Durham group again?
No, we're in the group with City, Liverpool, and Everton, and Leicester, because Leicester are apparently in the north to some people.
No chance. Maybe to Barry it is.
You're all in the north once you get past Watford Gap for me.
Well, there we are. Right, we'll wrap it.
Hang on, Watford Gap Services or Watford Gap
Services?
Right, because Watford Gap Services are nowhere near Watford, so it's a mistake anyway.
No, that's why we say it, because if I was saying Watford, I'm further north than Watford, which would make me a northerner, and on no planet is that ever going to be true. So it has to be Watford Gap Services.
I don't know where that is, to be honest. I'm trying.
Where Watford is? Watford's near London, Connor.
Yeah, no, I know that. I've been to Watford. I've been to Vicarage Road.
Watford Gap's on the M1, mate.
So
it's where every northern person stops if they're being forced to go down south and they're going by car.
Oxford Services.
Northern person stops.
Oxford's the one that I always go to.
When I've gone down south with my family to see our other family in Essex, Watford Gap. You stop at Watford Gap on the way down and the way up. Watford Gap. Nowhere else. It's always Watford Gap.
At no point has anybody mentioned ET's name. I mean, just leave that poor little alien out of it. That's just outrageous. Did you know what ET is short for, Connor?
What, the film or the Well, it's the same thing, but you know.
Whoa.
I thought you were asking if I'd seen the film, but
First of all, have you seen the film, Connor?
I have. I've seen that one.
Oh, good. It's gonna work. So what's ET short for?
Extraterrestrial.
No, he's got little legs.
What? What are you going on about?
ET is short because he's got little legs. Wake up, boy.
Oh, for God's sake! No. Right, thanks for watching, everyone. See you all next week.
I'm never going back on this show. That's
Oh my life.
No, you'll have to come back on it, Jess, because Connor's going to show us all his baby pictures.
Okay, right, fine. That's the only thing that's going to get me back after that. Oh, my tiny little brain has just been frazzled.
Right, Mark, before we wrap this one up, shout out the support stuff and all those kinds of things, and while we're still here, while people are still watching this, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think even I'm watching it, to be honest, anymore. Yeah, if you want to give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, it's MUW_SC, I think. I can't even remember after what Barry's just done. Give us a shout out, give us a follow. If you want to become a member, visit our website, www.muwsc.co.uk. If you want to be a plus member, you get a great badge like that Connor's showing off, or you can just be a free member as well. Be lovely to see some of you as well.
Indeed. Plenty of benefits as well, and obviously the travel account as well, which I know a few people used over the weekend, actually. The coach service from Old Trafford for League Sports Village
It's
games.
been full the last couple.
There we go.
And there's quite a few on it going down to Everton on Sunday. Hey, we're playing at the Parc des Princes on Wednesday, and we're playing in the Park on Sunday. I mean, it's great.
Yes, for those going to Walton Hall Park, I've never been, but I've seen the images. It is literally a park.
You've never been? Oh, Connor, you're in for such a treat.
It's literally one of the only grounds in the WSL I've not done, so this will be quite something.
Oh, Walton Hall Park, gee whiz, that is another planet.
It's a lot like Wembley, but nothing like it really in at all.
It's like the Wembley car park, maybe.
Yes.
It's like a park in Wembley, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. Wembley Park.
There we are. So looking forward to that one. On that then, obviously, we'll be back. Oh, I don't even know. Some point later this week. There's too many games. Just check the Twitter at allforunitedvids. We'll be tweeting when we're next going live. It'll be Thursday or Friday. It might be very result dependent, because I think if we lose, I don't think we're going to want to do a show on it. But we'll see. We may well do. It'll be Thursday or Friday, and obviously we've got the Everton game on Sunday as well. TJ did ask about the prediction thing a bit earlier on. That'll be out in half an hour or so once I get off here and tweet it out. Just being a bit lazy on that one.
It's my boy there.
Don't do that, because he'll be doing more of them. And also, we don't need any more film references in this chat, because I just don't understand them.
No, but you see, you should have got that one because you'd actually watched the film. I genuinely thought that was going to be a moment where we connected, and actually I just slipped through your greasy little hair.
I mean, I was like, I don't know, 6 when I saw it or something like that. It took a long time. It's a long time ago. I couldn't tell you what happens in the film at all. I just remember him being in the basket in the bike, and that's about it.
BT phones home and he ends up on a BT telephone advert. Basically what happens.
So I don't know. But there we are. It may be a good film, it may be not. I don't know. Either way. Right. I don't know what to say. Right, we're wrapping up there. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and follow all these guys, follow us, support stuff, all of that stuff. And we shall see you guys whenever we're next live.